All right, well, welcome everybody to the Tifton Talks podcast. Today I have with me Ron Branch, who is with Century 21 Smith, Branch, and Pope. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Donovan.
Now, Century 21, your base is in Tifton, but you have a couple of other offices in different locations, don't you?
Yes, we have office at Cordell Lake. We'll call it our Lake Blackshear office. We cover the Christie area. Do quite a bit of business at Lake Blackshear, and we also have an office in Sylvester, which covers that area, including Albany. And then, of course, our home office is here in Tifton.
Right.
So we cover about. We can sell anywhere in the state or handle property anywhere in the state, but we consistently work about a 10-county area. That's about all you can do and be able to service it properly.
So how long have you been in real estate? And I don't want you to give away your age unless you want to.
I'm old as dirt. I've been in real estate 29 years. It is a second career for me, though. I was with Georgia Power Company for over 20 years before I got in real estate.
So what made you leave that career and basically start a second one? Was it was just time to retire from that first one and move in to do something else?
No, I wasn't old enough to retire. What got me out of it was I was in and around Atlanta most of my career with Georgia Power Company. And being a South Georgia country boy, I got all of that traffic I could stand, and I finally just had enough of it. And that was the main reason I left. I said, there's got to be more to life than sitting in traffic 3 hours a day to get to work. So I moved back home and went into real estate, and I've never looked back. It's the best decision I ever made.
So you're a homegrown South Georgia boy.
That's great. I was raised in Ashburn, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And I tell people I was raised in Tifton on Friday and Saturday nights. That's nothing to do in Ashburn.
Hey, trust me, I know. I'm originally from Fitzgerald, and it basically the same scenario.
Exactly.
So,
anyways,
well, the reason why I wanted to get you on the program is we're developing this the whole Tifton Talks property. We've got a Facebook group. I've started a newsletter, and I'm also doing a podcast. And I've been podcasting since 2011. And one of the things that I wanted to bring to this podcast was kind of doing a business spotlight. And with the way things are going in 2023, and hopefully we can touch on a lot of these things, is in real estate specifically, what is the current state of the local housing market in terms of supply and demand? What are you seeing?
The same thing that we've been seeing for the last year or two, Donovan. The supply is extremely low. The demand is much higher than supply. That's why home prices have continued to rise. And for the first time in the last month, we're starting to see home prices stabilize and actually maybe decrease a little bit on a national level. Home builders are actually starting to cut prices a little bit. I don't know if that's happening in our area, but as a whole across the country, that's what's happening. And the reason is that mortgage rates. Mortgage rates actually are right now 3 times higher than they were in 2021. As a matter of fact, they've not slowed down. Have risen a little bit more in the past week. The national average mortgage rate for a 30-year loan right now is around 7.8%. And what's driving that is the Fed's target for inflation is 2%.
Mm-hmm.
This week, that is still the inflation rate's at 3.8% from what I just read. And that means we're going to see another rate increase probably before the end of the year. But the projections are that that's going to stabilize not much higher than where it is now, and probably provided inflation starts coming back down a little bit, I think we're going to end up, and the experts across the country seem to think within the next year we're going to end up back about where we were, maybe around 2000, which was around before the recession.
Mm-hmm.
The average rate was about 6%, and people seem to be comfortable with that now. As a matter of fact, this week there's been about a 20% increase in people applying for mortgage loans.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's kind of interesting because there's also been a decrease of actually people buying homes. So I don't know. Apparently, what that tells me is there's more people out there still considering buying a home. They just haven't pulled the trigger yet. They're waiting to see what these interest rates are going to do. But I think they're starting to get used to it. I know years ago when uh, 7 to 8% was normal. So we're really just getting back to the old normal, I think, and I don't really think it's going to get down below 6%. And at least that's not what the experts are saying.
Yeah.
So the new
When
normal, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, pardon me for interrupting you, but whenever we bought our house over here in Tifton in 2006, I believe our interest rate was a little under 5%, and then we refinanced in 2013, and I'm currently at 4.25%. And I know, especially in 2020, 2020, well, probably 2021, 2022, you started seeing, I know from my mortgage company, which is Mr. Cooper, they've changed names like 14 times, I think, but they would
Yeah, you hear
inundate
that a
my
lot.
inbox with, hey, 2%, 1.8%. And of course, all of that's all of that's dried up. But I'd like to roll all of what you said into something that I came across yesterday. And you've probably seen this already, but I think it's important for people to understand. So, this is according to the National Association of Realtors, and it goes on to say that the current state of buying houses in the U.S. presents significant challenges due to the soaring prices and hitting high records and diminishing home affordability. Not to mention, like you just said, the interest rates. Um, that's also a complication. Now, the one thing that was pointed out, and this was kind of a mathematical exercise, was previously, if you looked at an average interest rate of 2.8% for a $500,000 home, $500,000 home for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you were looking at a little under $2,000 a month. It was like 1,972. And the reason why we're doing this exercise is because it seems that people don't actually understand the significance of a jump from an average of 3% to say 8%. Because at
Mm-hmm.
2.8%, as I mentioned, you're looking at $1,972 a month. If you go to 7.9% for that same house, the same 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it is a 77% increase at $3,488 a month, almost $3,500. Now,
Yeah.
there's a phenomenon that I read about, and I'm going to ask you if you've seen this here in South Georgia, but this was specifically up in the Pacific Northwest. 2 years ago, they were building homes that were roughly 1,900 square feet, 3-bedroom homes. They were $500,000 homes. The interest rate was about 3%, and you'd have to put 5% down. So you're looking at roughly a $2,000 a month monthly payment. Fast forward 2 years, now in 2023, what they're doing is they're making smaller homes. Now it's a 1,500 square foot home that goes for about $100,000 less. Instead of 500,000, it's 400,000, but it's roughly $100 more at $2,100 a month because they're putting down 10%, and maybe you're getting a 6% interest rate. Have you
Mm-hmm.
seen in this area anything like that happening where the prices are staying pretty consistent, but in new construction, they're making smaller homes?
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot in this area, Donovan. Uh, what you just said, it just applied to Tift area. We're seeing 2,000 square foot homes now, where you just a couple of years ago, you could buy them for $120 a square foot. Now they're probably 140 to $175 a square foot. We've even seen some closer to $200 a square foot.
Mm.
We've never seen that before. And the way it's affecting buyers, the ones that are most affected are the young people.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that this is really hurting. They want to buy, they want to be the new home buyers, but the interest rates and credit requirements are really hurting them. The largest group of buyers with the most money, uh, probably it's no surprise, are the older folks, folks like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
I read an article recently that said that they that they're paying cash in some cases for homes. The next group that's buying the most homes are millennials, but this is an interesting statistic. I read this last week. 30 over 35% of millennials are getting their down payment either through inheritance or gifted from parents
Mm-hmm.
or relatives. That means, in other words, a third of millennials, even though they're the second highest group, they're getting their down payments somewhere else. So that's kind of an interesting statistic. Uh, it is more and more difficult to get a loan now. That's for sure. And the biggest problem is the interest rate.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And what you just described too reminds me of some articles I read about one of the biggest wealth transfers that we're about to see is probably from the baby boomers down to the millennials and even potentially the Gen Zers are known as the Zoomers. It just kind of skipped to
Yeah,
Generation X. It said, "Nope, you're not getting anything." uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I have three children. Two of them are millennials, and one is considered a Zoomer. And two of them no longer live with me, the two millennials. One's in
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, one's in San Francisco. And neither one of them own a home. They both lease. And you can imagine, and we'll get into this a little later, they're, I forget the square footage. Now, granted, there are some positives, if you will, as to their location and the amenities that they get by being where they are. They're in metropolitan areas, but they pay $3,000+ a month in just rent, and
Yeah,
they're
they
definitely
need to leave California.
well. One of them is in Seattle, and he can't leave because he works for Amazon AWS. He works for the cloud division of Amazon, and he trust me, he would have loved to have stayed working, just stay here in Tifton and making the money that he's making. Um, but they were like, no, we need you in Seattle. So it's
Yeah,
unfortunate,
I
and
understand.
same thing happened to my oldest son too when he had to go to San Francisco. But yeah, they. I mean, I was my youngest son, the one that lives in Seattle. He actually came and visited with us for about 6 weeks. And I mean, even what he makes, he we were looking at home prices in the Seattle area and even out in the suburban areas. And it's just even for him, he's like, I do want to buy a home one day, but I can't afford these prices, even with what I make. He said, this is
No,
ridiculous.
no, in that part of the country it is, and we're no. Thank God we're not anywhere near that problem.
Oh, I know. He looked at our house, and I mean, our house is not huge. It's about 2,500 square feet. And he looked at this house and he said, Dad, this house would sell for almost $800,000 out in Seattle. And I'm like, well, let's pick it up and move it. but
Yeah,
but
but
no,
but you'd also have to live there.
yeah, that's true. And personally, I may have some issues with South Georgia. Like I said, I'm born and bred here, but it's every time I think about leaving, I'm like, no, this is probably where I'm gonna die.
I'm I'm the same way, and I have lived other places, and you see where I ended up. Uh, I just haven't found anywhere I'd rather be than here.
Yeah, Tifton's a great place as far as it's not too big, but it's not too small. I wouldn't want to live in Macon. I wouldn't want to live in Atlanta. Um,
No.
Definitely don't
And
want to
I've
live
lived
anywhere in
both of those
Florida.
places.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've lived in both of those places, and I have no desire to go back. And they're, great places to visit and all that. But
sure.
but the thing about Tip, our area where we live here in the Tip area, you're still within 2.5 hours of international airport.
Hmm.
You're within 2.5 hours of the Atlantic Ocean, and within 2.5 hours of the Gulf, and within 3.5 hours of the North Georgia mountains. So it's just about anything you want within less than a half a day's drive. So it's
Yeah.
a great place to live. That's
Air,
all I got to say.
we have made frequent trips to the Valdosta airport because it's just easier for us to drive an hour down there and either pick up my son or carry him back down. Like we just carried him down there Saturday so that he could fly to Atlanta, then fly back to Seattle. So it's this nice little hub that we have, like you say.
Yeah,
But
I do the same thing.
yeah, how long are homes typically staying on the market before they're being sold now?
The the time on the market has actually increased a little bit lately. It's running around 30 days. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like a week. But now it's actually averaging a little over 30 days of the last numbers I saw, which is still extremely fast. It used to be back before the recession. Back the average used to run anywhere from 3 to 4 months, but we're still only about a month.
How was it right before
It's
COVID?
not an it, we're uh it was about 3 months.
Okay.
We're actually uh we're actually still getting there still are nice homes that go on the market that we'll have multiple offers on and uh and sell it within a week. That's still not uncommon.
So you would say it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market, or is it kind of evenly
Oh,
split?
it's no, no, no. It's definitely a seller's market, no question.
Okay,
Because there's the demand uh, is much more than supply.
gotcha.
So as long as it's that way, it's going to be a seller's market.
So here in
That's
the
one reason, even though the rate that's one reason, Donovan. That even though the rates have continued to creep up,
yeah,
and uh, that's one reason that the home prices haven't dropped. It's because there is such a low demand. I mean, low supply.
gotcha.
So home prices still holding steady and actually still increasing a little bit. But like I said, for the first time this past month, as a matter of fact, I just read this past week that this month is the first time we've actually seen a little bit of decrease, particularly in new homes are starting to. I'm not going to say that's true right here in Tifton, but
Hmm.
uh, across the country, builders are starting to drop prices a little bit to get buyers to come on in and buy homes. And the reason they are is the high interest rates are spooking builders as well as buyers. They don't want to get stuck with homes that they can't sell.
Well, with that
So
said, are in the areas that you cover that Century 21 covers currently, are there any specific neighborhoods or areas that are experiencing higher demand or growth?
the actually it's just everything. When investors that like to buy homes, 3 bedroom, small, 1,500 square foot homes or less, let's say, for rent. They like to buy 3 bedroom, 2 bath homes for rent. You used to could buy a home like that for 80 to $100 a square foot with no problem. Now you're having to pay $150,000 or more for a home like that, and you can't make the numbers work for rent.
Hmm.
So investors are crying for more property to buy for rental property. That's one reason you're seeing such a tremendous increase in apartments that are being built in our area. Gosh, they're building them by the hundreds. Uh, and a lot of them are luxury apartments. And the rent for something like that now for even a 1 bedroom, 1 bath is not unusual to be $1,000 a month.
Mm.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that I guess that answers my next question. The types of properties that are in high demand would be apartments right now.
That's right, but and that's why there's so many of them being built. So that demand, in my opinion, should slow down in the next year or so because we are having so many new apartments going up.
Right. Which could potentially, I could envision, and I'm not a real estate guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I could envision that we suddenly wind up with a glut. And that could potentially, I don't know, tank rental prices at that point.
That
What do you think?
uh, definitely that can happen. It's all about supply and demand, and the way they're building apartments right now in our area, uh, I can't help but to believe that the supply is eventually going to meet demand, and that's when you'll see rent prices probably come down some. But right now, people are having to pay whatever because a lot of these young people can't afford to buy homes because of the reasons we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having to rent.
Right, right. Well, so we've got all these projects, apartment complexes being built and et cetera, et cetera. Are there any upcoming developments or projects that may impact property values or market dynamics? And the first thing that I think of, and I don't know if this has any bearing on it whatsoever, because there seems to be a divide between the pro and the cons. We now have liquor stores here in Tifton. Have you ever seen anything like that affect property values?
Not anymore. It used to. I think, as a matter of fact, I remember a time 20 years ago when we had people that were coming in interviewing for jobs for the hospital, doctors, professional people like that that didn't want to come to Tipton. And that was one of the reasons that was told on more than one occasion by people from other parts of the country coming in here looking at taking these jobs that they couldn't believe they couldn't get a drink, an alcohol drink at a restaurant even at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all changed, and even though we haven't had liquor stores right here in Tifton, we have them up and down I-75 fairly close. It's a 20-minute drive anywhere. So now we have them here. But no, that's not been an issue. I don't think not in the last 15 years anyway.
We've seen a lot of
It's
new construction as far as businesses coming in too, and so I can't think of one specifically off the top of my head, but I know like some chains and some other businesses. You go out on 82, especially out on the west side, you just see building after building, new construction, and I would think that that would make Tifton more attractive for people to not only come and shop, but potentially buy a home here. And that seems like that would also affect your property values. And as we've already talked about, probably kind of maybe also is a reason why, along with the other things we've talked about, we've got such an explosive growth in new apartment complexes being built.
yes, as you probably know, Georgia for several years in a row now has been the number one state in the country to do business. And Tifton falls right in there with that. As a matter of fact, because of the fact that we're on I-75 and we are where 5 interstate highways intersect here, that's why we have such a large industrial park, and why we have so many distribution centers like the new Coca-Cola distribution center.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a lot of jobs, and it creates businesses that support those distribution centers, and that in turn creates more restaurants and fast food and all that type of stuff, more hotels. We have a convention center here. We have a 4-year college. We have a huge medical center. Tifton's got a lot to offer. As a matter of fact, I think the last count I heard was we have approximately 140 to 150 positions here. So we have a lot to offer, and we're considered one of the hot spots up and down I-75. I understand to bring new business, and we're seeing it. We see it every day. So yes, it's a great place to come to if you're looking for a career or quality of life.
I mean that's great.
Couldn't get much better.
Yeah, I'd also like to think that to toot my own horn here a little bit, that I had a little bit of to play in this, and you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? keep in mind, I used to work for the city of Tifton, and I started out as the network manager for CityNet, and then I became the general manager for several years, and then of course we were sold off to Plant Telephone. But we were the first. The city of Tifton brought broadband into Tifton and Tift County, but specifically Tifton first. 1999, we lit
That's
up the
right.
first
Right.
customer, and at that time, we recognized, and this is something I hate to say you don't normally see in government, even local governments, but we recognize the need for that connectivity for businesses to come in because the internet was hitting an explosive period of growth. Everybody was getting online. Amazon was just becoming the juggernaut that it is today. And, now we easily have, well, we have True Vista, which bought Plant. We have Mediacom. We got a Clearwave, which used to be Hargrave. And I think those are the three major ones. I'm not sure if anybody else is here. So, and even Fitzgerald, Georgia, little, and I say this affectionately, Podunk, Fitzgerald, Georgia, and Ben Hill County are getting fiber gigabit speeds through some co-ops,
Yep.
with the EMCs and what have you. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up. I mean, I think if you look back, I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's not the only thing, but I can guarantee you this. If Tifton did not have access to high speed broadband, and now today, I mean, we're talking gigabit speeds, you probably wouldn't see a lot of
Oh,
businesses coming here.
mm, absolutely. Oh, that's one of the questions that we're asked frequently in our business when people are looking for places to do business here. Uh, do you have high speed internet and the speeds that they want? And you're absolutely right. That's been a one of the best things we ever did. And
Yeah,
of
I'm
course it's pretty much getting that way all over the state now, thanks to
true.
Governor Brian Kemp. He was one pushing that we have high speed internet in every corner of the state, and we just about do. But we were one of the first rural areas to get it, because of what you've been talking about, and it really was a boom for us in attracting new business.
Yeah, we got a lot of pushback on that because there was a lot of people didn't think the government should be involved in it, and we're not going to go down that route. But I think all in all, a lot of people can look back at that and go, yeah, that was the right call. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, are there any government policies or incentives affecting the housing market locally? And what I mean by that is, do we have Do we have any governmental incentives here in Georgia to maybe go with like green energy, like solar and wind and things like that? You see any of that type of thing cropping up on new constructions?
Uh, Occasionally you'll see something about it. The one thing that we do see is there are incentives for historical homes, and we have uh, some local authorities in our area that are experts on this. And if anybody's really interested in a historical home and what they need to do to get some of these incentive grants, we can help them with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, but that's the main thing. But gosh, the demand is high for everything: historical homes, new homes, you name it. So you have people that want to buy homes have to they just have limited choices, so they're expanding their things that they consider.
Hmm. Yeah, I know we do have. I saw a little bit of that working with the city about the whole historical sections of Tifton, and you are you're kind of bound by certain things that you can and cannot do when it comes to the houses that are designated that way. I, it was news to me though that you could actually get grants and things for them.
Yeah, if you have the right connections, you certainly can.
I know you didn't just say
And
that.
I did. I didn't mean that in a negative way. I guess what I should say, when you know the right people to talk to,
Ah,
and
yes.
we do have an expert that actually works with us who's certified in that area that can help
All right. Well, that's good to know.
a lot of people. Yeah.
So, Anybody that's looking at that, y'all contact Century 21, Smith, Branch, and Pope,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they can help you out on that. We're going to skip down a couple of these things because we've basically danced around and already answered them. But what are some of the effective strategies for buyers or sellers to navigate this current market successfully, knowing all of the challenges that we have with the higher interest rates and the lower inventory?
Well, that's really what we're here for. To be honest with you, Donovan, not tooting our own horn, but I mean, you know, purchasing a new home is something that the average person probably doesn't do more than about 3 times in their lifetime. Uh, and it's probably the biggest expense most of them ever incur. So they they want help. They want an expert to work with them and lead them in the process and guide them through it. And that's what we're here for. That's what real estate agents are for. And we're actually realtors, which is it means that we're a member of the National Association, Georgia Association of Realtors, and our local association of realtors, and we are held to a higher standard in what we offer, and we're also held to a higher standard when it comes to code of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to help home buyers and home sellers and help guide them through the process. That's our main service. Is we're here to help them.
So that and like I say, we'll get to that at the very end of this, but that's the reason why you have to have a license to be able to be a real estate agent.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a pretty complicated process. I actually teach. I'm actually a licensed instructor with the Georgia Real Estate Commission, and we own South Georgia School of Real Estate. And it's not an easy course to get through. There's a lot involved in learning how to do it.
I thought about it, but I was like, no, I'll stay in my lane. I'll stay with technology. Thank you very much.
Well, there are a lot of people that's interested in it because our classes fill up. We teach it twice a year, and it takes about 2.5 months to go through the course, and it fills up just about every time.
Is it is it expensive?
No, our school which is $499, and that includes all your books and materials as well. It takes about 2.5 months. We teach 2 nights a week from 6 to 9. It takes about 2.5 months, and during that period of time, there are also 3 Saturday classes that are 6 hours long. But you have to pass a final exam in order to. You have to pass It's called a pre-license real estate course. You have to pass this course somewhere at some school in the state before you can sit for the Georgia Real Estate exam through the Georgia Real Estate Commission. So until you pass this course, you can't sit for that exam. This course teaches you what you have to know and how to take that exam, and then you go pass that exam, and that's how you get your real estate license.
Hmm. Okay. So it
And then
is.
there's a lot of continuing education. Realtors have to have 36 hours of continuing education uh, over a 4 year period. The licenses are renewed every 4 years. You have to have 36 hours of continuing education during that period of time in order to renew your license. So it's a constant education process, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's just like in IT. I mean, if I just stopped learning back in 2000, I wouldn't be very effective today. So I'm
Exactly. That's
constantly
the way it is with us.
yeah, I'm constantly having to, and especially with all the threats and the cybersecurity and stuff that's going on these days. I mean, it's we we don't have to have so many credits every within 4 years or whatever. We basically have to just keep our nose to the grindstone on a daily basis. So you
Yeah.
just never
I
know.
mean, it things are constantly changing in everything these days, so you have to stay on top of it.
Well, with that,
Technology is
go ahead.
there's a lot of changes in technology, and I can hardly keep up with it. I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, because I mean, when you started out, there was no such thing as websites, probably, right? I mean, you didn't have a Century
No,
21 website to go to and actually because you can go not just you guys, but pretty much all real estate agencies, you can go and look at the properties that are for sale online.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. They have to. You wouldn't stay in business long if you didn't.
Yeah. Well, how has I guess with all of these changes, how has the behavior or the preferences of the buyers also changed?
Well, they're they're begging for homes to say. I mean, you wouldn't believe the people that want to buy homes right now. We don't have anything to show them. We have a list of buyers ready to buy that we just don't have the supply for them. So
Mm,
I mean, that's there. I don't think there anything's really changed other than they just wish they could get in the home cheaper and quicker than they can now.
yeah, I get that. I honestly, I have no plans. I'd have to have a drastic life change for me to even contemplate selling our property now, because I got, like I said, I've got a pretty good interest rate, and of course, I still have many years left on the at least probably half, maybe not half of the 30-year mortgage. But knowing I could probably get a fair amount, probably almost double what I paid for it originally. But then what am I going to do with that? I can't find something else without it being closer to 7 or 8% interest rate, and I probably would have to get a smaller home anyway.
That's one of the biggest reasons that we have low inventory right now. Uh, what the problem is just exactly what you just said. We have quite a few people that would like to upgrade or downsize, whatever the case may be in their life, that aren't doing it. They're sitting and staying where they are because they've got these 3% mortgage rates, and they say, "Well, I want to go now, pay 7.8% mortgage rate for a home that's half the size of what I have now."
Mm-hmm.
And you stop thinking about it, that makes sense. And so they're not moving. So they're just sitting tight where they are. They don't want to give up that 3% mortgage money that they have now. So that's a big reason we don't have the inventory that we used to have.
Yeah, I mean, we could effectively downsize because I'm missing two of my kids now here, but I still can't. My brain just won't let me go. Well, you're paying 4.25%, and even if you got $300,000 out of the house, you're still going to wind up having to buy something that's around 13 to 1,500 square feet, and there goes probably half that money at an 8% interest rate. I'm just not. I'm not doing it. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do it.
And and a lot of other people aren't either. So that just further uh, adds to the problem that we have with supply.
Yeah. All right. One last thing that I want to kind of pick your brain about, or let folks know about before I let you go. I I think you made the comment that purchasing a home is probably the biggest expense that most people ever will do, and on average they probably won't do it more than 2 or 3 times in their lifetime. And I personally have only done it once, the one that I'm in now. Prior to that, I was in a 2,000 square foot mobile home, which was an upgrade from what my wife and I started out when we got married 33 years ago. There was a lot of things that I didn't know getting into this. And of course, it took someone like yourself, and much to my chagrin, I didn't buy it from you guys, but that's because I didn't really know y'all that well at the time. It was '06. But and honestly, my wife went online and she found the house that we're in now. And of course, it was represented by another real estate agency. So we came and we looked at it, but I didn't know all of the particulars, like what you're supposed to do, like the home inspection and things like that. What are some of the things that new homeowners, that could be gotchas for new homeowners when they found that house, that this is the one, but they need to be careful because they may wind up getting into a situation that their dream home turns into a nightmare.
That's a good question, and I like to tell people that buying a home is not there's no high pressure sales in this at all. I don't even consider us salespeople. We're more service providers. We're helping people uh, fulfill their dream of home ownership and helping them, guiding them through the process. And part of that process is not high pressure. Uh, Matter of fact, our contracts now, we typically advise, and typically people do, buyers get a due diligence period after they sign the contract. After they sign a binding contract, they still have X number of days. A typical time would be 10 days to do a home inspection, and we advise people to do home inspections. And there are a lot of home inspectors around, and they're very reasonably priced. A typical home inspection on an average home costs 400 to 450, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to find anything and everything that may be wrong with the home. They're not looking to see how good it is. They're looking to find faults with it. And most of the time, the things they find are things that the sellers didn't even know were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a rotten floor under the bathroom. Sellers don't crawl around other houses to look for things like that. So it's not anybody's fault. It's just things nobody knew. And these things, issues typically get addressed. And so by the time they actually purchase the home, close the sale, those things have been addressed and either have been corrected or they've been given an allowance to correct them themselves. And this is a good thing because it keeps them from buying a lemon, if you will, and they have the opportunity to do that. And we didn't used to do business like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we've done and started doing in the last few years, and it hasn't affected sales whatsoever, except it gives buyers and sellers the opportunity to make sure that they're getting a good home, and the sellers, nobody's coming back after the seller after the sale's closed because they've addressed any issues beforehand, and everybody comes out of the closing happy, and that's what you want. And it's just a lot better the way we handle it now than it used to be, and makes for a much smoother process, I think.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we did. We did have a home inspection here, and there's a couple of minor things that came up, and I looked at it, and there was only like one or two of them. I was like, if y'all will fix these, then we've got a deal. And it wasn't a major
Exactly.
issue. I think the biggest thing is my hand cramping signing and initialing all of the financial documents that you have to do when
Absolutely.
you buy a home.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh,
It takes a while, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
you would think with all of the technological advancements that we could get away from that and not have to do all of that. Just give me an iPad and let me put my thumbprint there or something. Come on.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Oh well, Ron.
That's probably coming.
Yeah, more than likely. I know the automotive industry as far as car sales have changed a lot, especially in the financial documents and stuff like that. One of my clients is a car dealership, and most of the time I don't even think you have to physically have any paperwork anymore. So yeah, I could see something like that probably changing in the real estate industry as well.
Well, that's one of the changes that we have seen. We don't even have paper files in the office anymore. Everything's online,
Mm-hmm.
and do quite a we accept the banks, the lenders accept it, lawyers accept it. Electronic signatures online. You can actually buy a home all online and sign the documents and everything, and not even have to see anybody in person. So that's quite a change from how we used to do business.
Well, there you go. We're already there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, well, Ron, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for taking time to answer all these questions, and hopefully this will be beneficial
Well,
for our listeners if they're looking to get a new home or seeing some of the obstacles that they're going to be facing here in 2023 and probably going into 2024 buying a home.
well, I appreciate you having me on the show, Donovan, and it's been my pleasure. I
All
hope
right.
the listeners learn something.
Yeah. Well, I know I have, and that was the whole point is to to try to do a spotlight on local businesses and also maybe learn something while we're doing it. So again, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it, and hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. We got cooler temperatures coming in, you know.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. You take care.
All right, thanks, Ron.